hidden spiritual cost of alcohol. What no one talks about. Since the dawn of civilization, alcohol has been more than just a drink. It has been a symbol of celebration, an agent of release, a means of escape. It is woven into rituals, traditions, and the very fabric of human history. But beneath the surface, beyond the laughter, the toasts, and the fleeting euphoria, there is a hidden cost. A cost that few ever consider. What if alcohol is not just altering the body, but reshaping something far more profound? What if every sip weakens the invisible forces that protect you, leaving you open to energies you do not understand? Ancient traditions, mystical teachings, and even modern spiritual insights all converge on one unsettling truth. Alcohol does more than dull the senses. It fragments the soul. It disconnects. It blinds. The drink that promises freedom may, in reality, be a silent thief, stealing something you don't even realize is being taken. Why have countless sages, mystics, and enlightened beings warned against it? What did they see that most of us ignore? Science explains what alcohol does to the brain, but what about the energy it disrupts? The aura it tears open? The unseen forces it invites? Tonight, the truth unfolds. Brace yourself, because once you see what's been hidden in plain sight, there's no going back. Alcohol and the soul, the forgotten truths from ancient wisdom. If alcohol was just another beverage, why have the wisest spiritual traditions warned against it for centuries? Why did the mystics, sages, and enlightened beings, those who sought the highest truths, speak of it not as a drink, but as a force that dulls the senses, not just in the body, but in the soul? Ancient civilizations understood something modern society has forgotten. To them, alcohol was never just a pleasure. It was a portal, a doorway that could either open one to divine connection or sever them from it entirely. The Sumerians, Egyptians, and Greeks all linked alcohol to the gods, but with caution. They saw it as a double-edged sword, a substance capable of revealing hidden truths, but just as easily leading one into darkness. The Hermetic traditions spoke of alcohol as a body-eating spirit, something that could dissolve the self, stripping away not just inhibition, but energetic protection. And in the East, the yogis and Buddhist masters understood that intoxicants cloud the mind, pulling one away from enlightenment rather than toward it. Even today, those who observe deeply can see the patterns. When alcohol enters the body, it does more than just slow reaction time or cloud judgment. It disrupts the subtle energetic field that surrounds every living being, what some call the aura. It creates fractures, openings, vulnerabilities, and through those openings something enters. The ancients called them attachments, thought forms, obsessing spirits. In modern times, they are dismissed as figments of imagination. But look closely. Have you ever noticed how alcohol can change a person? How the mild-mannered can become aggressive? How confidence turns to recklessness? How the joyful become sorrowful in an instant? These are not just emotional shifts. Something deeper is at play. In mystical traditions, alcohol is believed to weaken the connection to the higher self, the inner guide that keeps us aligned, aware, and protected. It overstimulates the root chakra, tying the drinker to the physical, while dimming the crown chakra, severing the connection to the divine. Instead of expanding consciousness, it traps it. Instead of elevating awareness, it buries it. And yet, society glorifies it, encourages it, builds entire industries around it. Why? Because a disconnected soul is easier to control. A scattered mind is less likely to question. A person who numbs their emotions, who silences the inner voice that warns and guides, is easier to keep in the cycle of consumption, distraction, and dependency. It's no coincidence that every major spiritual path speaks of clarity, of presence, of being fully aware. Yet alcohol does the opposite. It pulls one away from the now, away from the truth, into a state of fragmentation. So the question is, how many of your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions are truly your own? And how many have been influenced by something you unknowingly invited in? For centuries, the sages of every tradition sought liberation, not through escape, but through understanding. They sought not fleeting pleasure, but lasting peace, not intoxication, but awakening. And they all left behind a warning. Anything that dims the light of the soul is not a gift. It is a chain that most will never see. But once you do, once you recognize it for what it is, you cannot unsee it. The choice, as always, is yours. Do you continue as before, unaware of what lies beneath the surface? Or do you take the path that was always meant for you, the path of clarity, of awareness, of true spiritual freedom? Because the truth is this: the soul does not need an escape. It does not seek numbness. It only seeks to remember what it truly is. The illusion of freedom. How alcohol disconnects you from your true self. Imagine a man. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel, like so many others, works tirelessly throughout the week. He moves through the motions of life, carrying the weight of stress, expectations, and silent frustrations. By Friday night, he feels the tension in his body, the exhaustion in his mind. And so, like clockwork, he reaches for an escape. A drink. That first sip is warm, familiar. A few more, and the stress begins to fade. His thoughts loosen, his inhibitions dissolve. For a brief moment, he feels light, free. He laughs louder, speaks without hesitation, feels a surge of confidence. The problems that weighed him down just hours ago seem distant, almost unreal. But here's the question: is this real freedom, or just the illusion of it? Because as the night wears on, something shifts. The lightness turns heavy, the confidence wavers, the world around him distorts, and soon, the very thing that promised release tightens its grip. What Daniel doesn't realize is that this feeling, this freedom, is not his own. It is borrowed, fleeting, artificial, and by the time it fades, it leaves behind something else. Emptiness. A deeper disconnection than before. This is the paradox of alcohol. It presents itself as a gateway to liberation, a tool for confidence, a means to forget. But beneath the surface, it is an anchor, a force that pulls the soul further away from itself, a mask that hides rather than heals. Ancient wisdom has long warned of this deception. The yogis, the mystics, the shamans, they all understood that true freedom does not come from numbing the mind, but from awakening it. That real confidence does not come from a bottle, but from knowing oneself. That true release is not about escape, but about facing life fully, without filters, without distortion. But modern society does not teach this. Instead, it glorifies the illusion. It markets intoxication as empowerment. It calls numbness relaxation. It sells escapism as self-care. And so, generation after generation, the cycle continues. And yet, if you look closely, the truth is always there, hidden in the morning after. Because what happens when the high fades? What remains when the laughter dies down and the euphoria disappears? For many, it is regret. It is anxiety. It is the unshakable feeling of being uncentered, of something missing. It is the recognition, if only for a brief moment, that the escape was never real. What alcohol takes away is subtle, but profound. It doesn't just slow the body, it slows awareness. It doesn't just numb pain, it numbs intuition. It weakens the bridge between the self and the soul. The more one indulges, the further they drift. From clarity, from connection, from truth. This is why ancient traditions place so much importance on presence, on stillness, on being fully here. Because the mind that is clear, the spirit that is undisturbed, has no need for escape. The one who is truly free does not seek freedom from themselves, but the illusion is strong. It whispers that without it, you will be bored, you will be dull, you will miss out. But ask yourself, is your truest self dull? Is your highest state of being dependent on a substance? Or is it waiting to be uncovered beneath the layers of conditioning, beneath the need for distractions? The truth is, real freedom is not found in intoxication. It is found in awareness, in stepping beyond the illusion, beyond the dependency, beyond the need for something outside yourself to feel whole. Daniel wakes up the next morning. His head is heavy. The night is a blur. The laughter feels distant, disconnected. For a moment, a thought crosses his mind, a thought he quickly pushes away. There has to be something more than this. And the truth is, there is, beyond the veil, the spiritual consequences of alcohol revealed. Daniel isn't the only one. His story is familiar, echoed in countless lives, repeated across generations. The cycle of drinking, escaping, forgetting, and waking up to the same empty feeling. But what if this pattern isn't just a habit? What if it's something deeper, something unseen? In ancient teachings, alcohol was more than just a drink. It was recognized as an agent of change, a force that could shift energies, alter perceptions, and open doorways. But doorways to where? Across spiritual traditions, there is one truth that remains constant. We are not just flesh and bone. We are energy, vibrations, frequencies interacting with the world around us. What we consume does not only affect our bodies, it affects our spirit, our mind, and the unseen layers of our existence. What happens when alcohol enters this equation? It begins with subtlety, a loosening of control, a thinning of the veil between consciousness and the unknown. But beyond the surface, something else is happening, something that goes unnoticed by most. In spiritual circles, it is said that alcohol weakens the protective field surrounding the human body, the aura. This field is not just mystical imagery. It is the energetic blueprint that guards, influences, and sustains us. When intact, it shields us from external forces, negative energies, and intrusive thought forms. But under the influence of alcohol, cracks begin to form. The once stable energy wavers, leaving the mind and spirit exposed. This is why the behavior of a drunk person can shift so unpredictably. Why one moment they are joyful, and the next filled with rage or sorrow. It is why some feel overcome by impulses they would never act upon sober. Their energy is no longer fully their own. It is open, susceptible. Mystics and sages have long warned of this vulnerability. Rudolf Steiner, a philosopher and esoteric teacher, spoke of alcohol as a substance that loosens the connection between the soul and the spiritual world. In his teachings, he described how the more one indulges, the weaker this connection becomes, leaving space for external influences to take root. But what are these influences? In shamanic traditions, alcohol is known as a tool, not for enlightenment, but for those entities that feed on lower energies. The Amazonian shamans call them shadow spirits, beings that thrive on intoxication, confusion, and recklessness. These forces are said to attach themselves to individuals whose defenses are down, feeding on the chaos created in states of unconsciousness. In modern terms, these might be described as negative thought patterns, destructive cycles of addiction, self-doubt, and suffering that seem to intensify with continued drinking. But whether one sees them as external entities or internal struggles, the effect is the same. Disconnection. Disconnection from self. Disconnection from clarity. Disconnection from truth. The ancient texts spoke of this, but society has forgotten. Instead, we celebrate intoxication. We normalize the very thing that pulls us away from our center. And so, we continue the cycle, mistaking escape for freedom, mistaking numbness for joy. But there is another way, the way of clarity, the way of awareness, the way of choosing presence over illusion. Because beyond the veil of intoxication lies something far more powerful, something that has always been there, waiting to be reclaimed. The unshaken, untouchable, limitless truth of who we are. And the question remains, will you continue walking through life with the veil over your eyes, or will you step beyond it, into the light of what you were always meant to be?